And I think it's got to be a mistake. They gave me the doctor's number, not the scheduling department's number. This doctor actually came to us where we live. So I learned that the doctors are deal with you directly. That was a huge surprise to me. His fee for service was a fraction of what a copay would be in the States. And that's when I first noticed that something significant was happening in Paraguay, and unintentionally, by the way. I talked to my daughter, I said, hey, did you realize I was that big? And she said, Dad, I couldn't put my arms around you to be able to go to a farmer's market and get food that I know doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look like something that you would see in a magazine, but that's the stamp of approval that you know that's a fresh, organic, real piece of fruit. It's a real vegetable.
Hey guys, it's Paul from Plan B Paraguay. As you guys know, we like to make videos highlighting stories of expats doing interesting things in Paraguay. Today we're here with Richard, who's a Plan B client of ours. And recently I ran into Richard after not seeing him for a little while. And I was just, to be honest, impressed with actually the amount of weight that you've lost, Richard, since I last saw you. When we started talking about it, Richard actually had a very interesting story about his weight loss journey and experience here in Paraguay, and the positive experiences he's noticed in his life since he's moved to Paraguay. So thank you for joining us today, Richard. I guess firstly, before we get into it, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been in Paraguay, and what were your motives for moving here?
So I've been in Paraguay since February. My motive for being here, very similar to all the other expats that I've run into, lived in the West, watched the direction that the culture, the government, food, just everything in general is going, and you begin to realize that there may be a better option somewhere. So a number of years ago, I began researching what might that place look like. And as time goes on, you begin to realize as you watch videos, you really need to know what fits for you. You can't follow the crowd. You can't look at a video or an immigration influencer or somebody who provides service and go necessarily on their recommendation. So I sat down, I listed what was important for me, things I needed, things I refused to go with. Over time, Paraguay checked all the boxes. It's funny, I would tell people, I'm going to Paraguay, that's where I'm going, and they're going, oh, you're going to Portugal. No, it's Paraguay. And they're, well, why Paraguay? And then you go down the list and then people begin to understand. So at that time when I realized that Paraguay is where I wanted to go, at that time I was in the gym 5 days a week. Wasn't really too interested in health other than doing my lifting and my cardio, and as amazing as it sounds, I never really realized I was that much overweight. It's like I knew I wasn't skinny, but I didn't see myself as overweight. Every time I look down, I see my stomach and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got a stomach. And so I was cognizant of the fact that I had to eat for nutrition, but that was about it, and I thought life was fine. So February came, we moved down here, my wife and daughter, and I was taking pictures before or after of the Airbnb just to show the condition that we left it in, and I saw a side profile of me in the mirror.
This is an older video of you that you took earlier in the year.
Yes, and it blew my mind. I could not believe how girthy I was. And so I went and talked to my daughter. I said, hey, did you realize I was that big? And she said, Dad, I couldn't put my arms around you. Now, she's 15. She's not a little kid. She says, and Dad, now I can wrap my arms around you completely. And then that's when I first noticed that something significant was happening in Paraguay, and unintentionally, by the way. I never realized I had a problem until I saw the pictures of myself once I was here.
And so you mentioned that first video was in February of this year.
Yes.
We're now in September, so that's roughly 7 months.
Yes.
Do you know how much weight on the scales you've lost over that amount of time?
Probably about 65 pounds.
65 pounds.
Yes.
Wow. I'm a kilograms guy coming from Australia, so it's about 30 kilograms or so. That is a huge amount of weight to lose in 7 months. And so you mentioned you're doing what you're supposed to do in the States. You said you were exercising, you were watching what you eat to an extent. First, what have you changed consciously about your diet and routine since coming to Paraguay?
Nothing.
Nothing.
The only thing I've changed is I'm not going to the gym. When I was in the States, I always ate for nutrition to get my protein. We ate plant-based, so I made sure that I got my amino acid profile in my proteins. I got my vitamins.
I didn't know that. Hold on, if it was plant-based, then we could end the video now.
Yeah, and so the reason we were plant-based is because the livestock and the poultry has so many injections, and they were beginning the mRNA injections, that I didn't feel comfortable that I could find a clean meat source. And so we had eliminated meat from our diet solely for contamination purposes. Quit eating eggs. We even had chickens to get our own eggs. Then our homeowners association said you can't have chickens.
Really?
So we went plant-based in an effort to protect ourselves. What I didn't realize at the time is because the nutritional profile of the food in the States was not great. I would eat, but I would still be hungry, and so I'd eat 3-4 times a day because my body wasn't satisfied.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't realize that because I didn't know I was overweight, and I didn't realize what was happening. It's just, oh, when you're hungry, you eat. And I didn't really realize that until after I moved to Paraguay, and I noticed that I would eat in the morning, and then I wouldn't eat again until the evening. And I'm like, where'd all those meals go?
And so it sounds like you didn't have the desire, you weren't feeling that hunger like you were in the States.
Yes, I didn't have the hunger to eat all the meals. I didn't have the hunger or the desire to snack. It's when I ate, I was satisfied, and then I didn't eat again. Of course, that made me wonder, okay, what is happening? Why is this happening? And then I noticed that when I looked at my fingernails, that my fingernails were growing. And when I was in the States, I couldn't get my nails and my hair to grow unless I took vitamins and supplements.
Wow.
And protein. Then I realized I'm not even taking vitamins and supplements here. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. Then I began to notice the food. When my wife would cook, I could smell the vegetables as she was chopping them from across the apartment.
Okay.
The color was richer, the flavor was better. And that's when I began to realize, yeah, not only did you not know you were overweight, you didn't realize that you weren't overeating, but you were nutrient deficient. And to be honest, moving to Paraguay, I wanted clean food, but I didn't even know that weight was an issue for me to even expect this to happen. So it really came on me as a surprise, to be completely honest.
You mentioned that you're on a plant-based diet in the States because you're actually trying to avoid certain types of food. What are you eating now in Paraguay? What would a regular day of eating look like for you?
Sure. So now I'll have my 5 eggs because that'll give me my B vitamins, which are hard to get plant-based. It'll give me my protein. And then Rose will make something that's wheat pasta with vegetables, occasionally maybe mix in some what we call ground beef.
Okay.
Right? If we go out, if the steak looks good, we'll get a steak.
It's
right?
funny you mentioned ground beef because when I was in Australia, that was the only type, we call it mincemeat in Australia, but it's a cheaper cut of meat. And when I lived in Australia, that was the only type of meat that I could generally afford. Whereas in Paraguay, you can buy prime steaks and it's nothing. It's just funny that you're good on you if you're still having ground beef, but it's like, what's nice here is you don't even need to have that. Like you can get more high-end cuts quite easily.
Yeah, and the high-end cut was a huge change for us. When we flew in that day that you assisted us with our Airbnb, and that night we went to La Cabrera because we wanted to experience La Cabrera. So the next day we decided we want to go to an American restaurant.
Okay.
Because I want to compare the food in Paraguay with the food in the U.S. because I knew that this chain wasn't going to source from the U.S. It'll be sourced locally.
Yeah.
And so we went to the restaurant, and it even tastes different. The meat, you can tell, was a higher quality of meat. And my daughter even said, I don't think I can eat this hamburger because it tastes like the meat that we had at La Cabrera. And one of the things that we noticed is that all of the meat here is at a much higher quality here than it is in the U.S. And of course, the vegetables taste different. So eating here is a completely different experience.
Did you go to McDonald's here, or is that the restaurant? Or you mentioned...
We went to TGI Friday.
Oh, okay, TGI Friday.
Yeah, because it was the Galleria, and then we were at the tower, and it was an easy walk down San Martin.
Okay, so that's funny. So what a good way to compare what's the exact same restaurant, the Paraguayan version of the burger versus the burger back home. And you said there was an obvious difference in the two.
Sure. Yeah, and everything, the bread was different. The meat tasted different, obviously. It was a much higher quality. All the produce here tastes different.
Yeah.
The color's different of it. You can tell it's richer. One of my discoveries here is when we go produce shopping, we will purchase the produce. Sometimes there's even dirt on it.
Okay.
Where in the States, it may be chemically treated and washed. So that's not happening here. That's a positive. So we'll have the produce sit on our counter for a couple of days and it goes bad and we throw it away. Where in the States, it may sit on the counter for a couple of weeks. And so that indicated to me was that the produce is picked or harvested, whatever term you want to use, when it's ripe. And at the ripening process is where the flavor comes. That's where your nutrition comes into play.
Yeah.
And so it became very obvious to me that yes, it's the nutritional profile of the food here. And in the States, if you've never been to the States, you probably don't know how the food works, but it's picked way before it's ripe. It goes through the logistics system, goes through the distribution system, then it's delivered to the store, it sits in the store, you buy it, and then it sits on your counter for a week. It's not picked ripe if it went through that whole distribution process and it went through the whole supply chain and the logistics. And that's when it became obvious to me that it was the food quality, that it's not only the appearance, not only the aroma, not only the flavor, but the nutritional profile is significantly higher because it was picked right. And then much like the produce, the meat here is different also. I can go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the pieces are significantly smaller than what the chicken is in the United States. I know they don't grow different types of chicken.
Right.
Again, it's not all the injections, it's not all the hormones, it's not all the manipulation medically and genetically.
Yeah.
And it tastes better as well. One of the things that I've enjoyed is to be able to go to a farmer's market and get food that I know doesn't look perfect. It doesn't look like something that you would see in a magazine, but that's the stamp of approval that you know that's a fresh, organic, real piece of fruit. It's a real vegetable. Or when we go out to eat, I can look at meat and say, well, that's really small. That's good because that means that animal wasn't altered somehow to give
That's
me
how
this.
big that animal should be.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's not some grotesque abomination of science.
Yeah, it's like when I go to KFC, I'm not worried that if I would meet that chicken's family out on the street that it could beat me up because it's a normal sized chicken.
Yeah. So Richard, the next question I had for you, because one thing that I think so distinct about the States versus the rest of the world is the medical system. And so I was just curious to hear, did you have any thoughts or experiences in dealing with the Paraguayan medical system versus the one in the States?
Yeah, we've had a couple experiences actually. So we have a physician that we would refer to as a primary care physician.
Okay.
Although he's actually a specialist, but he still handles our routine matters.
And this is in the States?
No, that's here.
Oh, here, okay.
Actually.
Yeah.
In the States, that would be concierge medicine.
Okay.
And I did not make enough money to be able to afford concierge medicine
Okay.
in the States. So oddly enough, that's what happens here. I didn't know it at the time. I got the phone number for the doctor and I think, okay, you know what? I want to have my initial visit with him. I want to build that. You're my doctor. I'm your customer.
Right.
Thinking like an American, you're a customer, right? So that I can get on the books. So I get the number and I'm like, oh, this is great. I'm going to get a hold of his scheduling department. And I WhatsApp him. And for those of you in the States, that's like texting, but it's a different platform. So I WhatsApp him and the doctor responds. And I'm thinking,
Him directly?
Directly.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, there's got to be a mistake. They gave me the doctor's number, not the scheduling department's number.
Yeah.
So I learned that the doctors here deal with you directly.
Yeah.
And that was a huge surprise to me. The way that the medical care is delivered here is very different.
Yeah.
This doctor actually came to us where we live. I can tell you that his fee for service was a fraction of what a copay would be in the States. In the States, if I go in and I see Dr. Paul and I tell Paul it's because my thumb hurts, I've got to make my $300 copay, and we talk about our thumb. And if I say, oh, by the way, can you answer a question about my pinky, then I get charged another copay because that's a second visit, because that's a second medical consultation that I have. Here, there's more of an ownership and there's more of a care for the craft and the practice of medicine. And in the physicians that I've seen who've treated me and my family and other expat, it's like, what do you need? What can I do for you? And you can bring up 3 or 4 different things and there's no problem, them taking ownership of that treatment, giving you medical plans for that. Each physician I've had has given me a treatment plan. He says, if you have any questions, contact me. There's times I'll reach out, they get back to you. There was one period of time where I would message him 10, 15 times a day saying, hey, this is what happened with this medicine. Okay, change the dose. It's still not good. Okay, go get this medicine down at the pharmacy. So that's a huge difference.
And out of curiosity, did you access him through a medical insurance plan here, or was that purely out of pocket?
So that was purely out of pocket.
Yeah.
He was a Plan B recommended physician.
Okay.
I have my checklist of things that I want to do Getting health insurance was pretty low on my list at the time. And then we had some emergency room visits. And I can tell you, and I really hesitate to say this because I don't want anybody to hear this and think, oh, I don't need medical insurance. But the amount of money that we've spent, even on an ER visit in a private hospital, for pages of lab work, for all the ER care, the drugs that you were given, the scripts you were given, barely covered a premium of health insurance. And so I'm sure if you're in a car wreck or you have to have surgery, there's probably value in having the insurance. So I'm not saying don't have insurance on day-to-day issues. It's just so inexpensive that we just didn't get insurance.
I agree completely. I started in Paraguay with insurance, but I quickly found when I did need to visit ER or go to a doctor, it was cheaper just to pay out of pocket. Not that the insurance was particularly expensive. Even just recently, we helped a Plan B person go to emergency. This person hit their head, so they needed a CAT scan, had to see a doctor, do all the stuff to make sure everything was okay. The whole thing was less than $120 US.
Yes.
This person probably got their service from going in the door to leaving all in 2 hours.
Yes.
Everything done. We're not saying that Paraguay has the best health experience in the world. There's others that are good, but
Sure.
it's just such a stark contrast to a place like the States where, yes, at the very high end, I agree, it's definitely better than Paraguay, but for the day-to-day stuff, seeing a regular doctor to ask a few simple questions, it seems to be far simpler and easier here.
I think with all of our ER visits, I think the longest wait we ever had was 10 minutes to get in and get back there. We were out in 2 hours, and in the States, it's going to take you that long to check in.
Yeah.
And just hope that nothing serious happens, and then that gets you expedited treatment.
Yeah.
And that sounds awful, but that's basically the way it happened. I can tell you I had very good insurance in the States, and it was $1,700 a month for that.
Wow.
On top of the co-pays.
That's more than my rent.
And then you have deductibles that you have to meet.
Yeah.
So I am not saying don't get insurance here.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say to somebody from the States coming here is they need to understand that insurance here is not a third party, that insurance is more of a group of physicians who practice with a group of hospitals, and then they work out coverage with what they think is reasonable.
Yeah.
So you don't have the 15 layers of administrative markup on everything. And so you don't have the overbilling issues 9 steps of the way that'll lead to a $49,000 ER visit because you jammed your finger.
Right.
And so I'm not saying that's a superior way to do it, but it's just an adjustment when you come here and you want to deal with insurance. You need to pick your medical group that you want, and just understand you're dealing with them. You don't have to worry about approval for services, approval for fees. Your physician's not arguing with an administrator somewhere about whether that really is the course of medical care that you need.
Yeah.
And it affords the physicians here the latitude to treat the way they feel that they need to be treating.
So Richard, you mentioned obviously the weight loss. You mentioned, which is quite interesting, that you notice your nails and your hair. I wish I had the same luck was growing back with the diet here. Has there been any other, have you noticed changes in your mood or energy levels as well?
No, the changes that I've seen is I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder in the States.
Okay.
And I haven't had any of those symptoms since I've been here, which is really interesting. I had reflux in the States, but that cleared up. I just think that's food quality. Yeah, but I was really surprised with the autoimmune symptoms clearing up. I didn't expect to lose weight because I wasn't trying to lose weight, but it really surprised me when those symptoms cleared up. I was on a lot of medications to manage that. Here, I take an aspirin, and that's pretty much what I do for any pain or discomfort because that autoimmune is not an issue for me anymore in my joints and in my soft tissues.
Isn't that funny? Once you get away from the bad diet, or the diet that's slowly poisoning you, suddenly you don't need all these other medications that they're layering on top of it to take care of all those issues. So you've been here 7 months, Richard. Maybe I already know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it. Do you think it was a good decision to move to Paraguay?
Yes, absolutely. It filled all the blocks that I was checking. Of course, it's better when you're here because you get to live it.
Okay.
You can't appreciate something until you have something to compare it to. And so Paraguay looked good on paper. It's what I was interested in, but I didn't really know what it was going to be like and the benefit of the quality of the life until you get here.
Yeah.
And then there's really something to compare it against. If you go to high school and you've got your friends and you've grown up your whole life, and then you move off to another state for a job and you come back 5 years later and then you go back and say, it's not the way I remembered
Right.
it. And it's not here because you have some comparative analysis. And so even though I knew that the food, all of the other things that I was looking for were here, to actually be here and then to be able to get the benefit of being here was even better than I thought it would be, just because I didn't have a frame of reference to be able to gauge that.
Yeah.
And even speaking with people who are in the States, how do you articulate that? Now, my
Right.
favorite people to talk to are expats from the States
That are in Paraguay.
that are in Paraguay
Right.
now, because
Yeah.
I can say, what do you think about this? And they're like, man, yeah, because they can relate to it.
Yeah.
Because now they have that frame of reference where other people don't have that frame of reference also.
I will say though, from speaking to you in the past, it wasn't all easy going. A few times in the last 7 months, I know you've had a few frustrations as well that you've had to overcome as you're adapting to Paraguay. Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think those frustrations were just a lack of awareness on my part. I failed to recognize some of the challenges of banking in
Right.
Paraguay.
Yeah.
A lot of my issues revolved around not having a real clear understanding of the banking.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that's Paraguay's fault.
Yeah.
Because Paraguay didn't single me out. This is the environment that they do business in. And so that was my issue. And then one of the other things, which I think is really interesting, but it's a cultural change, is just the shopping here.
Okay.
When you're in the States and you have a store, that store is going to carry pretty much the same thing all the time. And if you go to that store in other locations, it's going to have the same things as
Right.
that store had. And Paraguay is not like that. It's like I can go to 5 Super Saces, go back to the 5 the next week, and they all have completely different things on the shelf.
Right. Yeah.
And so it takes some time to ramp up to get that feel for where you can get what. And it's just being patient, and it's just understanding that it's not bad. How you're used to it isn't good.
Yeah.
It's just that's the way it works. And you just have to be proficient in the environment that you're in. And then once you understand that, and then everything smooths out.
Yeah, I feel everyone that comes here goes through a learning curve. And obviously with the support of us at Plan B and other people in the community, I assume that learning curve has been shortened for you. But whether it's a 7-month learning curve like it was for you, or an 18-month learning curve like it was for me, we love Paraguay, but there is that that period of adjustment you have to go
Sure.
through, and you do have to have that patience and maybe a little bit of humility to take the bumps as you start to figure out just how everything works in Paraguay.
Yeah, and then one of the things about Plan B, and it's really interesting that you talk about shortening the learning curve, is I mentioned to you before, one of the things that I did was I sat down and I did an inventory of what is my life like. Okay, I have a doctor, I go shopping, I like to do this, and so I made that list. I know you guys were tired of seeing my messages come through, but I got my comparable list for Paraguay, so that when I landed here, I already had my doctors identified. I didn't want to have a medical emergency and then try to find a doctor hoping he speaks English. So I did all of that background via Plan B, the chat that's set up for the Plan B clients, where you
Yeah.
can go in and message how many people are on there.
Yeah.
They all give their input and guidance and direction. So that does significantly reduce that amount of time in the learning curve.
I always like to ask guests this is, let's say someone's watching you on YouTube right now, they're considering Paraguay. Is there
Sure.
any advice that you could give to
Sure.
them?
Yeah, time is not your friend. Time is your enemy. You think that because everything's okay, you have time.
In their current home country right now, you mean?
Anywhere.
Okay.
Time is not your friend. So you have to get your birth certificate.
Right.
Not simple. Takes time.
Right.
You hope they send you the long form and not the short form. If they send you the short form, you got to ask again for the long form. You have to get an apostille on that. So then you've got to get that sent off.
Yeah.
And then you get that. You get all that paperwork done, and then you need your FBI and your Interpol stuff done. Then you send that off. Oh, that's not even done. Now you need an apostille on that. And so that process, I expedited, as I think you recognize, I expedited my process. And then on top of that, in the background, the clock ticks.
Yeah.
Is Paraguay going to change the requirements for the residency program? Is your country going to change the requirements for leaving? And so if you're waiting for the train to leave to get on the train, it's too late,
Yeah.
because you need several months lead time. And the target is moving. because immigration changes all the time. And so my recommendation, and I do speak to people back in the States, family and acquaintances, and I tell them, do it now, then come here, file your paperwork, and don't think of it as an immigration trip. Look at it as a vacation.
Yeah.
What's the difference between coming here, the Caribbean, or Hawaii? So come here,
The
make it
beaches
a
are better
vacation. Exactly, the beaches are better here. There's no sharks here, right?
That's right, no sharks.
No
We'll go
sharks.
with that.
So come here, file the paperwork, get the process started, and experience the city. Know what you're thinking about when you're back home trying to make a decision.
Yeah.
Go back, and then guess what? If something happens where you decide that you want or need to leave, then guess what? Time isn't your enemy anymore, because the plans are set, everything's already in place. Make the decision to go. If you don't have to go, but you want to go later, fine. Let the clock start on your temporary residency and work toward your permanent residency.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem that I see that people don't recognize is they always assume time is your friend. There's always plenty of time to do something tomorrow. And the immigration piece is too dynamic for you to put that decision off and think at the last minute you're going to pull that off.
I feel you just look at the numbers of people coming through. It was, I think, 25,000 last year. It's going to be 1,000 by the end of this year. Like, Paraguay is very easy to get a residency today.
Correct.
This growth isn't sustainable. The Paraguay, I like the Paraguayan government, but like any government, governments are inherently selfish. They're like, hang on, maybe we can get more. These people really want to come to our country. Maybe we can get more out of it. More concessions, a higher price of entry. Who knows what it's going to be?
Right.
I think it's important, if people want to do this process, do not wait, because just like Panama changed the rules 4 years ago before I was going to do it, and it went from a $5,000 investment to a $200,000 investment to get the residency. There's going to be similar changes eventually in Paraguay. And so I think it's silly if people think that they can just wait, because Paraguay is going to get harder, as you said. And also lots of countries, whether it's the States, Australia, Europe, they're going to get harder to exit. They don't like that their productive tax-paying people are leaving, that their tax base is leaving overseas. I think it's only a matter of time before they start closing the doors in any way that they can to stop people leaving.
And then the financial part's not even the whole issue. If you look at other residency programs across the world, they say you have to stay here so many months out of the year. So essentially, that puts you in the position that you're looking to move. And right now, Paraguay does not have an onerous in-country requirement right now.
That's true.
So that if Paraguay is on the map for you, do it now. You don't know if Paraguay is going to have an onerous in-country requirement.
Right.
So it's not even just money.
Yeah.
I know people are thinking, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say you made the decision to move there. I just invite anybody to do what I did. Just do your homework. Go and look and see what the requirements are for these countries. And I'm not even saying that you have a lot of money that would be easy because of the in-country requirements.
Yeah.
So it's dynamic. Don't assume time is your friend is my huge takeaway from this whole process.
I appreciate you sharing your unique experience with the diet here and all the benefits you're having.
Sure.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up video sometime.
Sure.
And we'll see where you're at then. But just out of curiosity, what's next for you here? I know that you have a Christian group that you're forming or that you're working on at the moment.
Right now, I think next for me is to start going to the gym. So now that it's been brought to my attention that I was ridiculously overweight and I'm losing weight, seems like gym time is probably appropriate now to get some sort of actual cardiovascular work in, to do some strength training to build up my frame. Yeah, there is a Christian men's group here. I work with those guys. It's a great group of guys. As you're aware, there is a degree of transiency here. There's people coming and going.
Yeah.
So
Less
those
so
guys,
now, though, I feel.
yeah,
A couple years ago, hardly anyone stayed. Now I feel like 40-50% of the people that get residency with us are actually living in Paraguay now, which I think is really nice.
yeah, and then the guys will come and they'll enjoy it, and then they'll leave and they'll say, when I come back, I'm going to bring my wife.
Okay.
And so we stay in contact. There's a core group of guys who come every Sunday. They're aware that I online pastor a church in the States still, and then I'll be able to register to start a church here. So I'm looking at doing that in the future too. One day at a time. You're not going to push the boulder, but you learn if you walk with the boulder, everything's fine. So that's my Western mindset changing.
That's awesome. Richard, thank you very much for your time today, mate.
Sure, and I know I say it often, but thank you for everything that Plan B does. It's people don't understand the value of having somebody on the ground in another country to be able to answer questions, to get you out of a jam. And as I told you before, Plan B for me wasn't an expense. It was an investment of the value, the quality of my life. And I appreciate you having that available for me and my family.
Oh, I appreciate it too. It's really, it feels nice to me because obviously we spoke on the phone and here you were, a gentleman that's not only moving himself. Like it's one thing if it's a 22-year-old digital nomad, that's cool. But a guy that's moving his whole family, right? That's a higher commitment and that's a higher level of trust that you put in us. I just want to say I really appreciate that you took a chance on us and that it's worked out for you so far.
It has, I appreciate it, thank you.
Awesome. That's it for the video, guys. If you want to know more about residency in Paraguay, there's some details in the description of this video. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you in Paraguay one time. Take it easy. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.